All right, we're by Maimer Hey, Parak Aleph, and this Maimer sets up a very big theme. I think we either had it in this Maimer, maybe the last Maimer we actually mentioned it, but there's a pasuk, Isparach B'Vavi Leimer Shalom Yehli B'Shiras Libi Elech Laman's Face Ravas Tzmeah, which literally translates to a person will bless themselves in their heart. They'll reassure themselves in their heart that peace will be to me because I'm going to go by the ruling of my heart. So that the sfeis should be added to the thirsty. What sfeis? No, Laman's sfeis. No. So that the thirsty will be added to the not thirsty. I'm butchering it because the word sfeis is something that we're going to discuss what it means. That's just like the very simple basic translation. But that's what we're going to be discussing. And this pasuk comes up a lot. It's a very common theme in Kuntreis Umayan. When the first time that I paid attention, when there was kriya for Parshas Tzavim, if I remember correctly, like I heard that pasuk, I was like, oh yeah, that's the pasuk from Kuntreis Umayan. So yeah, it's pay attention to this. This is foundational. So. This that the Yetzer Hara convinces a person, he reassures a person that if he does something bad, he's going to have peace. It says in the pasuk, that a person will reassure himself in his heart, etc. So this is also from the enticement of the Yetzer Hara. It's not a truth per se, but it's from the enticement of the Yetzer Hara. We're going to explain how true it is, but it's from the enticement of the Yetzer Hara that it's like drippings drip from the lips of the foreigner, but her end is as bitter as bitter plant. Wormwood is what they say. So he's saying it's not really a good thing to be indulging in. We're going to explain this is actually a very apt mashal when you know the picture. But it says that it's like honey that's dripping from the lips of a foreign woman. But ultimately, it's not a good idea to be with a foreign woman. And we're going to explain. But before we explain, as is Hashem, we first need to preface. Perish Apostle, Isbarif B'Lavavi Leimer Shalom Yaliki B'Shiras Libi Elef Laman's Face Haravas Tzmeah. We're going to explain the pasuk that he's going to reassure himself in his heart that peace will be to me because I'm going to go by the ruling of my heart, so that the thirsty and the not thirsty can be sfeis. We're about to get there. The implication of the pasuk of ki b'shiras libi is that it's giving an explanation for what it says beforehand that a person will reassure themselves. And then it says the person will reassure themselves that it's going to be good for them. And how is it going to be good for them? Because you have sfeis haravas tzmeah. That there's going to be an explanation for why there's going to be peace if a person follows the ruling of their heart. Seemingly sounds said at all. Because seemingly at a face value, when you have a person who's reading the pasuk and he sees the person says, peace is going to be to me because I go in the ruling of my heart. Usually people that follow only their heart, I know that it's a very big trope in movies or whatever it is, but in real life, where you don't have survivor bias of the 1 in a million people that they do get away with following their heart, usually you need to follow a little bit more than your heart. Like Mamela, if like your heart is pulling you somewhere, like you think about it and you rationalize it, it makes sense, and then you go ahead and you do it. Like, I don't know, following your dream job or whatever it is. Let's say a person really wants to be a dentist. Some people really want that, by the way. I don't particularly understand it. Some people really want to be a dentist, so that's his heart's passion. So he thinks about it, and he's like, well, as a dentist, I can make $500,000 a year for looking at people's teeth. That sounds like a good gig. So I'll go to college. I don't know if you guys have student loan debts over here.
It comes out of your salary. There's a whole system.
Okay, the whole system. So he's like, he does the math. It works out. He's like, by the time I'm 30, I'll be able to have money. I can start putting away for my son's bar mitzvah, for my daughter's weddings, and all of the good stuff. And so he does. So even though that's what his heart wants, it'll pull him towards that. But it makes sense also. If a person says, I'm going to follow only the ruling of my heart says I need to do this, I'm going to follow my heart. Usually that's not a good idea. So a person reading the pasuk might think, or would want to think, why is it that a person will reassure himself that if he follows in the ruling of his heart, it's going to be good? And even if it does end up working out, it's still scary. Why is it reassuring that a person is going to have good if they follow what their heart says? So v'gam ma'u perish l'man space Rava kolu. And we also need to understand, because we're looking at this from the outside, we know that that l'man space Rava Satzmeah is an explanation for V'sbarach L'vaveh. But V'sbarach L'vaveh doesn't make sense. We know that we have the explanation. What does the explanation mean? What does it mean? So, in order to understand, we need to look at the Rishonim. Rashi, Perish, Sveis, Lashon Chibur. Rashi explains Sveis as a lashon of connecting. Ukamai Safu Shana al Shana, like the pasuk in Yeshaya that you should add year to year. V'haradak, David Chimki. Perish, Lashon Tisefes, Ukamai Lispes Eid. He explains it as a lashon of addition, as in you're going to add it, as it says in the pasuk, Lispes Eid, to add more. That your oilis, your carbon oilis were added to your carbon shlamim. So these are just examples I'm bringing from other psukim to support how they're reading it. So you have the man space harava as hatzmeah. Two explanations, and first explanation is Rashi, which is that it means to connect, and the second explanation is Radak, which means that it's to add. Perish Rashi, an explanation of Rava and Tzmeah, of the not thirsty and the thirsty, which these are also things we need to understand. So Perish Rashi, Rashi on the note in Sanhedrin explains Rava Akul, that the non-thirsty refers to Goyim. That they're satiated, they are not thirsty for their creator. And Tzmeah, the thirsty, refers to the Yidden, because they're thirsty and they desire fear of their creator and to fulfill his commandments. So when we say Knesset Yisrael is the level of Malchus above that the Neshamis of the Yidden come from. Well, this is also how it is with, so we're saying it's both with the Yidden, that the Yidden are thirsty for Hashem, and also the Neshamis are thirsty, the source of the Neshamis are thirsty for Hashem.
Using the context of what we spoke about yesterday with regards to the rope that connects from Hashem to the Yidden, do Goyim also have that same rope?
No.
Okay, because that correlates with what we're saying here, where they don't have that same thirst, I guess.
Yeah. It's a very interesting concept, what it is, especially because we have two Gerim in the room. The notion of you have a neshama that's thirsty for godliness, I would say in a sense even applies, something that I would say you guys know firsthand. But it's very, it's an interesting concept. I don't know exactly if the rope connects to Knesset Yisrael. I don't think it does. I think it connects to the neshama down here. But yeah, the neshamas are, in general, the point is that the neshamas are thirsty for godliness. When you know the concept is the hine bekenas Malchus, he mocker amahava machaya elemis. Malchus is the level of Malchus is the source which gives life to and sustains all of the worlds. As it says, Malchus kol elamim, that your Malchus is the Malchus of all worlds. And that all of the worlds, the root of their creation, the root of their existence, is from the level of Malchus. And as it says, that you sustain all of them. You give life to all of them. And the word Ata is referring to the letters Aleph through Taf, because and also the Hey. I don't know if he's going to bring it in over here, because I don't think that Ata actually has a... I think that when it's written out in the Pasuk, it's actually written without a Hey. But he might bring it in if that's how it's read. But yeah, it refers to the letters of Aleph through Taf. So instead of saying Ve'ata Machayas Kolon, that you sustain them all, Aleph through Taf, Machayas Kolon. The letters Aleph through Taf sustain them all. You give life to them all. They are the words of Dibur, of the level of Malchus, that from them, Chayas is given to all of the world. Just to explain, Malchus and Dibur are very correlated. The Indian of Malchus means kingship, literally. I was just thinking, if you're able to have an entire share in Kuntreis Umayan or something like that, to finish a whole book and this, explaining Malchus very in depth without actually translating Malchus to mean kingship. But Malchus means kingship. Kingship is that you have a bunch of citizens, they get together, they say they want to have a king. It's actually somewhat recently in Rambam. you have a bunch of people and they agree that the king should be the king for them, and that he represents their financial decisions, he represents their unified voice, etc. And that's what a king is. The king represents the will of the people.
Isn't a king anointed by Hashem though?
So lav dafka, and it's also, even if Hashem decides that someone should be a king, it's still a mitzvah for us to appoint the king. But there's also, you have Geisha kings, and like the Rambam, actually, this is what was in Rambam, that if you have a king, and the king says that I need to destroy these houses to build a highway, the king has the right and the ability to do so long as it's written in the law of the land, because this is what is ultimately the financial will of the people. The Rambam says, how do you know that it's the financial will of the people? Because if everyone is using his coins, then that means that people say that he's in charge of the finances. So that's what it is. In general, a king, and if he's not, then he's not a king. He's just a strong man who's controlling people. But a king is, the people got together and they said that this person will represent our decisions. And it could be, it's not just a king particularly, it's any form of government, but you see it definitely with a king, that you see that he represents the majesty of all of the people. Speaking is when you have thoughts. You have a lot of thoughts in your head, and you ultimately decide what you want to communicate. And you're able to limit it down into a few words. So speaking is that kind of medium by which you would filter everything that you have in your mind, and you're able to give it over. So kingship and speech are somewhat related in that sense, that you have a big multitude, and you're able to refine it into one point to be able to give things over. The king is giving over, you need to have someone making decisions about where to make highways and things like that, or what wars to fight and whatnot, and so he's representing the will of the people that's filtered down into one person. Speech is taking a bunch of ideas, filtering down into something that could even be a spoken word. So, the words of Dibur, after that tangent, the words of Dibur give chayas to the world. And don't read it machaya, read it mahava. Don't read that he gives life to everything, read that he creates everything. In general, the letter Yud involved, you very often would say that they're so similar that you don't read it this way, you read it as though the Yud is a little bit stretched down. So, Machaya and Mahava it's a one letter difference. They spell Mahava over here with two vowels. It's probably like that in the original too, but just to put the emphasis, because otherwise you want to know to the emphasis on the vav where to put it. But Altukei Machaya and Mahava, which calls Machmach, as it explains in another place. Yedua the China Zay Shehu Makar Mahava Machaya Ilames Huraka Ar Levada should be Einerech Gabe Asos. It's known that this level of that gives life to the worlds, that creates the world, that makes the world exist, gives life to it, is only a ray, a radiance of, which is not comparable to Atzmos, to Hashem himself. Because even from the essence of Erin Seif, it wasn't possible to have creations of worlds, creations which have limitations. Because there's no comparison between something which is limited and something which is unlimited. You can't take off a chunk of something that's unlimited, and you can't take a fraction of something that's unlimited and make it limited. You need to take off something that's less than a fraction. You need to go down another level of tzimtzum, in a sense, to be able to get something limited from the unlimited. As it's explained in many places at length. Rather, only from a ray, from a radiance of the Erin Seif, so an offshoot after a tzimtzum, etc., were the worlds able to be created. This is why the level of Malchus is the level of a name. Melech Shmei Nikra Aleim, that the name of a king is called unto them. The Hashem hu rak ha'ara b'levad, because the name is only a ha'ara. Shem Adam Shein Yatzis Adam, we'll explain this in a second. I think it's the last part of the memory, so we'll explain this in a second. As Hashem, Shem Adam Shehu She'enei Yatzis Adam, just like the name of a person isn't the essence of a person. So too, the life force of the world is only a name and a hara. So what does it mean? A name is only a hara of a person. So there's the classic story of Tzemach Tzedek when he was a kid with the Alter Rebbe, that the Alter Rebbe asked him, where's the Zayda? The Alter Rebbe was Tzemach Tzedek's grandfather, and he was playing with him, and he said, "Where's your grandfather?" So he pointed at his grandfather's chest. The Alter Rebbe said, "No, that's the chest of the Zayda." So he pointed at his head. He said, "No, that's the head of the Zayda." He pointed at his heart. That's the heart of the Zayda. Fine, he gave up. Smart kid. You know when you lost. So he's walking away. He turns the corner, and then he screams. He says, "Ouch!" So the Alter Rebbe thought he tripped and hurt himself. So the Alter Rebbe came running. He said, "Mendele, what's wrong?" And Tzemach Tzedek said, "That's the Zayda. I found the Zayda." What happened? When he felt called, I don't know if he called out Zayda also in the story, but when a person feels called, they run with their entire essence towards it. And if I want to refer to someone, I would refer to them by their name, right? And if I want to get someone's attention, I say their name, and their entire essence turns. However, I cannot dissect a person and pull out their name. There's no, I could pull out their heart. I'll probably get sued. But I could pull out their heart, I could pull out their liver, I could pull out their lungs, but their name is not a part of them. But it is a part of them. Not only is it a part of them, it's so essential to them that if I want to get their attention, not just the attention of their brain or their heart or their arms or whatever it is, if I want to get a person's attention, I call their name. The name is obviously so deep in them, but it just doesn't even exist in them. So the name is a very essential part of a person. And it's a hard thing to describe, it's a hard thing to explain. But this is what we say when we say that by Hashem, the life force of the world is like it comes from His name. Because it's something that, yes, it has Hashem's attention, and yes, it has, in a sense, the whole Atmos is boiled down, Kav Yachol, until you could have, it's refined down until you can have this world. But it also isn't Asmos. You don't have that essence of Hashem in the world, in a sense. Obviously, everything we're talking about is different levels, etc., etc. But Hashem gives life force to the world, and He gives it through this level of limitation, in a sense. The limitation of the concept of a name didn't necessarily need to exist. Hashem made the concept of a name. He made the concept of a name so that He could make the world, in a sense. He made this level of removal that you could have. That you could have Him, the whole essence of Him. You could refer to Him completely with just His name. And it just isn't Him. So we're saying the point that we're saying is that the level of Malchus that we have in the world, every level that it goes down, it's another level of removal like this. I don't know, maybe it would be like taking initials, maybe it would be the next thing, but taking initials isn't really like a good example. Once you take the initials, you can't get the original thing. It's very, very refined. It keeps on getting more and more refined, but you go down level by level. But ultimately, Hashem, this is how Hashem created the world. He removed Himself in such a way that you still have the whole essence of Hashem, but not also in a sense. And ultimately, that's how He created the world. Any questions? Let's just do the Kitzur. We should have done the Kitzur from the last one. So from the continuation of the pasuk of B'shiras Libi Elef, to follow the ruling of your heart, it implies that the Maman Tzfei Sarava Tzveya is an explanation for a person reassuring themselves. What does it mean to Tzveis, the not thirsty and the thirsty? Rava Akum, Rava refers to Goyim. Smeir Nishmas Yisrael, the Sharshim Esfir Malchus, Makar Ilumei Suva Nivraim. And the thirsty is the souls of the Yidden, that their source is from the level of Malchus, which is the source of all worlds and creations. Shehi ha'ara levad shebe'ein arech la'atzmos l'chein nikreis Hashem, which it is only a radiance from which is not even comparable to Atzmos, and that's why it is called a name. All right.
Sure.
Yeah.